The title of my talk today is a question mark. Is it possible to live a sustainable life and be happy? Well, the latest UN climate report came out on Thursday. We need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 7% every decade. Otherwise, we will have a warming by 3.2 degrees by 2100. Quite a few of you are going to live at that date. When is the point of no return reached? There's a point of no return. If you go past that, there's no way of stopping the catastrophe. When will it be reached? Let me tell you, I was told in 1990 that 10 more years and we are beyond that point. Now I'm being told we are going to reach the point of no return very soon. When? And nobody's talking about it. When is? Nobody knows when we have been stupid enough to ruin the planet with no way of stopping the catastrophe. Just that, every second, 250 kilos of plastic are dumped into the sea. Every second. While you breathe now, in, out, 8 seconds, 2 tons of plastic have just been dumped into the sea. Why is that? I can tell you why. There's a company that calls the German partner and says, I can get rid of the plastic for you. It's called Entsorgen, unworry. And it will cost you so and so much. Now, costing so and so much means that you do that in a responsible way. Either you recycle or you burn in a way that does not kill the atmosphere. And it's quite a high price. And they're getting the money. The Germans have a good conscience. The plastic is shipped to Bangladesh and there is dumped into the sea, or to Nigeria, or to wherever you want. There is big money in this. There are no king prawns left off the Scottish coast. Do you think leaving the EU will change anything? No. It's depleted. They overfished the king prawn. They're gone. They may need a few years to recover, but at the moment there aren't any. And the fisherman who says the root of the evil is the EU, because they set limitations. We want to fish further out. Okay, they're going to deplete some more. Forget it. Leaving the EU is not a solution. But okay, that's my opinion. By the way, I'm going to give you my opinion on many of these things, and you make your own out of that. Think about it and draw your own conclusions. Oh, Murcia. What's it called? Mar Menor. Dead fish, plastic, feces. Why? New building projects gets a lot of money from the EU. You build houses for 1,000 people and the canalization goes right into the sea. Not right at the edge, but a kilometer out in the sea. You can see the stuff coming up from the bottom. Big money. The climate change may be a hoax spread by the Russians. Okay, some people really tell us that. And if not, what shall we do? Here in Augsburg and in other places we have fantastic schools. Listen to this. In kindergarten, equipment and toys made from natural materials, garden work, processing berries and fruit, a bees project, regular sustainable nourishment projects like baking bread, vegetable soup, muesli, cookies, vegetarian whole food lunch from the school kitchen, weekly day in the woods for the smallest ones, the seasons and corresponding festivals. During school time, a shepherd will be visiting, wool processing will be learned in handiwork classes, project from corn to bread, plough, sow, harvest, flailing, cleaning, milling, baking. Project visit of a charcoal burner in the woods, including spending a night in the woods, tree sponsorships, nature experts will be visiting. A school fruit program is started with fresh biofruit and vegetables, gardening tuition in theory and practice, kitchen practice, pupils work 5 half days in the school kitchen, 3-week practical agricultural program on a farm, Morocco project with ecological project work, sustainability in physics, biology, chemistry, social sciences and religion. Isn't that fantastic? Sustainability in the school community. School kitchen looks for bioquality and cooperation with local farms at all times. School garden cooperates with school kitchen. Agriculture practice on and cooperation with a biofarm. It's a parents' initiative. And a building circle that provides natural materials whenever something needs to be built or renovated. Now, wow. Fantastic. My question is, in this school you will not be part of the problem, but will you be happy? I'll tell you, you can be happy if you succeed in sticking your head deep enough in the sand not to notice what's going on around you. Then you can be sustainable and happy. But if you want to be awake and look at the papers, look at TV, speak to people, observe your everyday surroundings, then you will start asking yourself questions. For instance, I brought you something. Where is it? We're talking about planned obsolescence. There's a light bulb today in California that's been burning since 1901 in the Livermore fire station. Burning continuously since 1901. Thing like that, a little more old-fashioned than that. And something had to happen there. Because if you sell bulbs that don't burn out, you're not selling many bulbs. You'll sell a bulb for the writing table, one for the living room, one for the kitchen, and then that will go on for 20 years. Nobody will be buying bulbs. That's not a business proposition. So the Phoebus cartel got together on December 23rd, 1924. Osram from Germany, Philips from the Netherlands, Tungsram from Hungary, Compagnie des Lampes de France, Tokyo Electric from Japan, International General Electric from Great Britain, General Electric Sociedad Anónima from Brazil, China General Electric and Mexicana de Lamparas. They agreed to reduce the life of a light bulb to 2,000 hours. 2,000 hours, and then it would be built so that it would burn out after 2,000 hours. You would have to buy a new one. You have a question?
Yes. The needs more energy than new ones.
I do not understand you.
Light from 1901 needs more energy than the new ones. Is this a problem?
Oh. The No, I'm not sure I understood that.
She's saying that, for example, as far as electric suppliers in houses, old ones should consume more electricity than the new ones. They say to us, they told
We
tell
are,
us.
we're coming to that.
Okay.
That's obsolescence by technical advance. But just notice that the people who sell lamps got together and decided the lamps have to die sooner. 2,000 hours is the maximum. It would be easy to build lamps that burn permanently. No problem. But that's not a business proposition. Nylon stockings. At the beginning of the last century, people invented nylon and nylon stockings, and they were very much in fashion. They had this seam at the back, and those who could not afford nylon stockings just painted the seam on the back of their legs to make it look like they had nylon stockings. It was en vogue. The trouble was the nylon stockings lasted forever. And ever and ever and ever. Nylon is indestructible. So Dow DuPont, the manufacturer of nylon, came up with a machine that broke, or rather injured, the thread every 6 meters so that there would be ladders creeping up the legs and you'd have to buy new nylon stockings. There is obsolescence by fashion manipulation. The colors you're wearing today will be out by next autumn. The styles too. Some narrow dresses are in 1 year and completely out the next. So you have to buy new stuff. I don't go along with that. Just to give you an example. These black trousers I discovered 1994. They're by Pierre Cardin. They're called double black. And I have not worn any other trousers since. I got 3 pairs of them. When one goes bust, I buy a new one. And I always wear the same. And it's all right. Look at that. It's perfect. Why should I need 8 or 12 pairs of trousers in my cupboard? Why should I need more than 4 pairs of shoes? I don't play along the game of fashion. Now, be careful. There's this television show called Shopping Queen. They're suggesting to you that by shopping, you're great. Well, forget it. You're ruining the planet by buying more stuff that you don't need. Okay, obsolescence by fashion manipulation. That applies to clothes, shoes, cars, gadgets, mobile phones. You will need a new mobile phone next year. Of course. They will suggest to you that the new mobile phone will be faster or better or last longer than the old one. And you will fall for it and you will spend a lot of money on something that nobody needs. And you will make people rich. We'll talk about the rich ones right away. Obsolescence by no repair. Your cell phone has a weak battery. You go to Apple or Samsung and you say, I need a new battery, it's 100 euros. But if you give us back that one and pay just 150 more, we can give you a new one. You will fall for it. They make it very attractive to hand in your old one and get a new one. Your toaster lands on the garbage. Who repairs Hoover? Now, people with a conscience about that have invented repair cafes. You go to the repair cafe with your Hoover and you look around, anybody here for Hoovers? And the old man over there says, yes, that's my business, bring it on. And he will unscrew the screws and look for what's wrong, and you will go home with a working machine. That is a beautiful initiative. that is exactly contrary to what industry wants. Yeah? All these measures or tricks, now this is very important, all these measures in the area of obsolescence or tricks have two goals. They're designed to keep up profits, and they're designed to nourish families. Because there are real people who are working on nylon stockings and on iPhones and on hoovers and on a lot of appliances, and they want work. Why shouldn't they have work? So this is a very honorable task to nourish all these families. If we just produced light bulbs that last forever, plenty of people would be out of work. So that is to be considered in all that we think about. Understand? Your dad may be in a job that gets lost if it were handled in a sustainable and responsible manner. Okay. Now, there is this growth dogma. My stepfather in the 60s, he was a wise man. And in the 60s he said, George, they have this growth dogma now. Every year grow. Hey, not only the commerce has to grow, but the growth has to grow. If we had 2% of growth in the last year, next year we want 4% growth, or 5%, or 6%. The growth has to grow. And he said, you know, George, this is completely crazy. I mean, if you count the light bulbs we have today, there must be about 17 in the house, burning only 3. If growth is to take place, 17, well, next year we need 20. The year after we need 24. The year after we need 28. How is this supposed to work? And that was a time when the Chinese were busy with Mao Zedong's revolution. They didn't even think of cars. And he said, George, now imagine that these billions of Chinese start thinking about having their own car. And we make it possible for them. And they all drive. Can you imagine what the air looks like? I found it difficult to imagine, but when I see today photos of Shanghai, I know what the air looks like. And how can you tell these Chinese, well, we've had our fun with good cars, but you shouldn't, because you must be responsible for the planet. What's that supposed to mean? You cannot forbid the Chinese to enjoy the same advantages we had. But what do? Well, the growth dogma is a problem, then inequality is a problem. Look, if all the money in this world was here on the floor about that high, no, that high, evenly distributed, if we try to depict the real proportion of distribution, we'd have to leave just one layer of coins and in this corner build a tower that goes about 6 times as high as this house is. That's where the rich people are. Just here. And the rest will have to do with what little money there is. Putin, you've heard of Putin. He is estimated to be worth, that's what they call it, to be worth, $200 billion. Do you think he earned that money with his hands or with intellectual work? I write books and I sell them. I earn the least at Amazon because Amazon takes 70%. You're surprised that this guy is one of the richest in the world, the guy who owns Amazon. How do I make as much money as possible? I'll tell you something, the French Revolution was started for less. King Louis XIV would have been happy to have a fraction of what Putin grabs for himself. Okay, inequality. Feeding cattle with grain. Cattle. Cattle eat grass. That's normal. But if you want cattle to grow fast and to produce much meat, muscles, you feed them grain. They're not made to eat grain, but they grow faster then. And in some places, they open up the stomach of the cow on the side and shove the grain directly in there. I don't know if you've seen that on YouTube. It is disgusting, but they do it. You get cows with udders like that. They can hardly walk. A cow has a normal lifespan of 10, 11 years. I studied agriculture, I know that. 10 to 11 years, that's a good cow's life. These high production cows are killed after 4.5, 5 years, because then they have given already all the milk that they would give in their entire life of 11 years, and they are of no use anymore. A cow is defined by its usefulness. Cows legally are things in most countries. All animals are things. And Der Spiegel, a German paper, had a big title, "Do Animals Have Feelings?" with a question mark at the back. I mean, how crazy can you be? You've never seen a dog have feelings, or cats? I drove along the B12 here in Bavaria. There was a buzzard, huge, majestic bird, sitting in the middle of the road next to the corpse of his dead mate. They spent their entire life together. They're monogamous. And the mate was dead, run over by a car in the middle of the road. And the face of that buzzard, I will never forget. It was full of pain. And the Spiegel asks, do animals have feelings? Well, so much for the Spiegel and the question mark. Now let's look on. Pesticides and herbicides without much control. I'll talk more about that. But the problem is, in the 60s, Rachel Carson wrote a book. I recommend that to you for reading. It's easy to read. It's called Silent Spring. And it developed a vision of a springtime without any birds. No birds. Because of DDT at the time. A poison that accumulates in the organism of animals and people, by the way. And in the organisms of worms and bugs, of insects that were sprayed with them. And who ate the insects? The birds. And who died? The birds. And the Silent Spring. This spring I was just behind Augsburg in the west. There's a woody area. And my wife and I drove into that woody area and parked the car and walked a mile. And then I said, hey, stop. Do you hear anything? She said, no. Nor do I. There were no birds. And the tears came up into my eyes. No birds. Are we crazy? Herbicides and pesticides, what for? More money from the field. Money, money, money. Ah, let's look closer. Oh, yes. Ciba-Geigy in, when was it? I didn't write when it was. Developed an electromagnetic seed manipulation device. 2 iron plates, and you put the seeds of wheat and maize and all kinds of stuff, grasses in between the sheets. Also the seeds of trout, fish. And they had this electromagnetic field on it for a few days, and then they let the trout develop and planted the wheat, and the wheat had power. It didn't need any pesticides, and the trout developed a beak that it used to have when it was, I don't know, 10,000 years ago. A fern developed into a fern that we know from glaciers, where they're frozen underneath 10,000 years ago or 20,000 years ago. These things developed a power that was unknown until then. But the trouble is, Ciba-Geigy was one of the largest manufacturer of pesticides. So Ciba-Geigy had no interest at all at bringing out and developing this technique. It landed in a drawer, and it's still there. You can research on Google Ciba-Geigy, trout, ferns. You'll be surprised at the pictures you get to see in Wikipedia too. Did you know that there have been for many years electric car and hydrogen car plans ready for mass production in the drawers of the large car companies? Ready for production for 20 years. They started thinking about that alternative a long time ago. But for the time being, there's a lot of money to be made from fossil fuels. So lately, fossil fuels have become a little bit unpopular. Okay, let's go electric. Now, you study electric and the footprint, the CO2 footprint of those batteries and the production of electric cars, and you do your own thinking on that. It's not an improvement, not really. Hydrogen would be. They have developed a machine that produces the hydrogen in the car. You wouldn't have to have hydrogen tanks. You would have water tanks. And while you drive, the hydrogen that you drive with would be produced from the water. That is ready for production. But it's safely stored away in drawers, in safes, because at the moment we're making money with fossil fuels. There's also obsolescence by hybrids. You know what hybrids are? Okay. There is a crop list of 32 crops. And when you buy hybrids, there's an interesting thought. When there's a hybrid, when there's a normal field with tomatoes and turnips and cucumbers and whatever, a normal field with alive plants, and it remains unattended. The fruits ripen, they rot, the birds eat the seeds and take them other places, and life goes on, and the same field will have a wild variety of tomatoes, turnips, and carrots, and whatever. But with hybrids, you leave the field unattended, and the next year you have an empty, grey, nothing, because there is no life in the hybrids. Now, the list of hybrids involves alfalfa, apple, canola, beans, carnations, chicory, cotton, cowpea, creeping bent grass, eggplant, eucalyptus, flax, maize, maize, huge market, melon, papaya, petunia, pineapple, plum, poplar, potato, potato, great, rice. Is that a market? Can you make money there? Rice? rose, safflower, soybean, of course, squash, sugar beet, sugar cane, sweet pepper, tobacco, tomato, wheat. There are patents on plants and patents also on animals. Now, people are discussing whether that is the right thing to do. But your pig somebody else may have a patent on your pig because your pig shows certain signs that he has got a patent on. And you have to pay royalties to that guy, to Monsanto, Bayer. Well, and many of these crops are what is called Roundup ready. Roundup is the most popular of the pesticides today, and these crops are not affected by Roundup. So what it means, when you grow these crops, you can spray Roundup all over, everything else is killed, just that crop remains. Well, hooray, yeah? Can you imagine that? Kill everything. Reminds me of something a French king said, tuez-les tous, Dieu reconnaîtra les siens. Crazy. Are you aware of the fact that 75% of the fruit and vegetable that used to be in the larder of humanity are gone forever? I repeat it, 75% of the variety, of the biodiversity are gone forever. There are places where they are kept. In Norway, there's a place where they keep seeds underground for, I don't know for when. We should use them now, but now is the time of the hybrids. I'll give you an example with tomatoes. I'm 72 years old next week, or 2 weeks from now. And when I was 7, I went to my grandmother's vegetable garden and I stole a tomato. And I remember, it was in Austria. Now the Austrians, and for good reason, call their tomatoes, or used to call their tomatoes, Paradeiser. A fruit from paradise. And I remember that taste. I tell you, it was worth stealing. It was fantastic. Now, today you have hybrids. They have no seeds. The durability is extended from 3 days to 3 weeks. Because if you produce your tomatoes in India, you have to get them to Europe. Or in Murcia, produce many tomatoes. If you have only 3 days to sell them, that's not a business proposition. So you need to extend durability. You need to extend durability, and durability was extended by 3 weeks. They have to be homogeneous today, all the same size and round, none of these clefts and stuff. They need to be hard. When I was young and you threw a tomato at a window pane, the tomato would go. Today, with this one, maybe the tomato would also break, but the normal window pane would break if you throw a tomato at it. They're so hard. And they taste of nothing. You don't know what a good tomato tastes like. You're too young for that. You are, I'm sorry to say, what you call tomato is a joke in my eyes. It's a fake tomato. It's a tomato made for business, for selling to you. Now, this is interesting. Today, 4 companies have privatized and now share the world tomato market. 4 companies. Syngenta, Bayer Monsanto, Dow DuPont, and Limagrain. Limagrain, it's French. And there's a fifth one, Tomatec, that I found online. I don't quite know what they do. That's what is called a monopoly, or if you want, an oligopoly. They say what goes. You have nothing to say, I have nothing to say. And they fight for their dead tomatoes. They produce these hybrid seeds where the work is cheap. In India. India produces 160 tons of seed for export. Children work there for 40 euro cents a day. Women for 2 euros 50, men for 3 euros 40. The minimum wage in India is 4 euros 25. Everybody's under minimum wage. And in Europe, 1 ton of hybrid seeds, tomato seeds, costs how much? Guess. Guess. No, not 1 ton. Yes, 1 ton. Huh?
1 ton of seeds.
Sorry, my friends, I made a mistake. Not 1 ton. 1 kilo. 1 kilo, 1,000 grams. Cost between 60 and 140 and 440,000 euros. And they're trying to keep this knowledge about the real price from the Indian farmers. So they don't know how much money is made off them. They're paid under price. Yeah. Now, only sterile hybrid seeds or plants from a certain catalog may be sold. And if you try to sell something else, like for instance a plant that is alive and that produces seeds, they drag you to court and make you pay fines because they have the monopoly. So that biodiversity is very much in danger. The next tomato you open, you cut it open and look for seeds. Wish you good luck. You'll find a few, 5 maybe, 20, but not 400 like a normal tomato would have. And the seeds that you find will be sterile. Now, there are people who resist this trend. In France, there is an outfit that's called Kokopelli. Kokopelli corresponds to a little village in Gallia that won't be tamed by Julius Caesar. You remember? They don't give in. And they list more than 500 tomato varieties, alive tomato varieties. Yeah? In their catalog, aubergines, 50 aubergines, 110 different zucchinis, 40 types of melons, more than 130 types of salads, and 2012 Kokopelli won a lawsuit against Grainbomax SAS, who wanted Kokopelli to stop selling the alive grains. And a judge decided in favor of Kokopelli. So if you have a garden, don't buy at Tesco's or wherever they offer you seeds. Write research online and write to Kokopelli or the British or the Spanish or Italian equivalent and say, where can I get alive seeds for my tomatoes? And you will still find little outfits who sell that. Same goes for salads and all the other fruit I've mentioned. The tomatoes was an example. I can tell you a similar story about potatoes. About 20 years ago, a potato brand went off the market, Katrin. Suddenly there was no Katrin anymore. Why? The patent had run out. So when the patent runs out, you cannot make more money out of Katrin, and you take it off the market and push in a new brand that still has a fresh patent. Now the chefs of the big restaurants loved Katrin, and they protested in such a way that Katrin was brought back. The potato still exists. But that was lucky just for one kind of potato. We are not aware of what goes on behind the scenes. And for salads and for rice, for maize. Oh, Jesus, what could I tell you about maize? It's horrible. Yeah? It's the mainstay of Mexican kitchen. It's dead. It's dead. What they eat is dead. Well, are there any computer gamers here? Who plays computer? Okay. Computer games. And who is good at it? You're good at it? Okay. I suggest something even better, which I would call Lifegame. It works like this. First, be in love with this planet and with your life on it, and all those little creatures and the big ones that you can encounter when you go out. Be in love. Then be determined. Know exactly what you want and what you don't. You have to do some research for that. So the third point is be informed. Research online. Today you have an advantage over the time when I was at school. You get every information online. During the night in my dream, I had an idea for this talk. I got up at 4:15 and I researched online until I found what I was looking for, and I put it in here. You will hear it afterwards. Be informed, and fourth, be connected. Alone we are nothing. Greta Thunberg alone is nothing. But if you are connected to 25 other gamers, life gamers, in search of potatoes for your local farm, and connected to some legal specialists who can defend you in case the crop producers catch wind of that, find out. And farmers who want to play along. Suddenly you're playing a big game. I'll talk more about that in a minute. You can, of course, join a nice green neighborhood initiative, restrict yourself to healthy, meat-free foods, clothes made of natural fibers, to a waste-free, plastic-free life for your own conscience. That will be very nice, but it won't help the world. You will not be part of the problem anymore, but you won't be part of the solution. You're just out of the game. And I say, if you want to be happy, you have to be in the game. Sustainable, yes, but you will have to fight. You will have to fight wherever you are. A meaningful life can only happen today if you fight for this planet. It's your planet. We old guys messed it up. We weren't aware of what was going on. You are aware, and it's up to you now to fight, and I will help you wherever I can. I'm now trying to raise your awareness of the urgency of the situation. And what you are able to do in a computer game is great. You've practiced in computer games for something that is much bigger than the computer game. It is not at the end you get applause and, I don't know, something electronic. No, you get a planet. And if you want to be part of that, You are not alone. There are the people of Kokopelli in France. There are in England and in Spain and in Italy and in Germany. There are little groups who are bent on fighting for this planet. Never fight against. Fight for, not against. Against bad karma. And then there is, I said, networking makes us strong. And think global, act local. That is a phrase that was coined, I think, in the 70s of the last century, 60s of the last century. It's still valid. Think global, like I'm now developing a global picture. And then ask yourself, what can I do at home? I know Farmer Jones. He is growing dead crop. Maybe I can talk with him. Or me and 5 friends from my school can go and visit him and ask him what he does and how he gets by with his family financially, and if he wouldn't be willing to grow green crops. Or there is a legal measure that is being taken to push, I don't know, immigrants out. Do you think they're migrating for fun? They're running away from pain, from danger, from I don't want to describe what they want to run away from, but they have not deserved that we push them around. We have to find a way of dealing with them properly. We are not finding a way to dealing with them properly. We're trying to get rid of them. But not by putting in order their countries and stopping the exploitation there. Hey, we grab the oil and these people remain poor. And we pay the leaders of these countries. Swiss bank accounts are full of money waiting for their rightful owners, heads of state of Africa and the Near East and the Far East, to come and pick it up and buy a new yacht. And it should have been the money of the people. But it never was. Mr. Putin, 200 billion. And the Russian people? Ask Russians what they get on their plate for lunch. So that is something we have to look at. The inequality between the very poor and the very, very rich. Looking after the planet, stopping destroying it. The conflict of the cultures. We have the Christians, we have the Muslims, we have the Hindus, we have the Shintos, we have the, I don't know what we all have. But what we don't have is respect. That is what we need. You Hindu? Tell me about it. I'd like to know more. That's the right text. Not fucking Hindu. Or Muslim or whatever. Tell me about what it's like to be a Hindu. Or Buddhist. Show interest and show respect for other cultures. We have the industrial livestock to look after. Beef, chicken, pork, turkey. We have sterile monocultures. We have the fact that animals in most countries are still things that need some doing on our part. Social injustices of any kind need public protests and flash mobs. You can use flash mobs to raise consciousness. Flash mobs actually are fun. Here's a guy who's already done a few. Huh? Yeah. Boycott the use of fossil fuels. How about equal pay? Equal pay between men and women, but also equal pay between me and an immigrant from Syria. He may be a doctor. He'll never get what I get. Never. Never, never. Not here. And we have the controlled media. Why do you think there is no revolution going on in Russia? Because Mr. Putin controls the media, the television, he controls the papers, and what he does not want to be written in the papers will not be written in the papers. So the fact that he has put aside $200 billion from, don't ask me what, will never be published in Russia. We know about it, because here are people who think aloud and who can put that in the internet. You can't put that in the internet in Russia. So there is work to be done for people with your gifts. I don't know what, but you ask yourself, what is the challenge for me? Yeah, I've practiced so long with computer games to see things and react fast and connect, and now I want to put my ability in the service of this planet and of this humanity. That's something great, yeah, if that happens. Examples. I'm from that generation that lived through 1968. You've heard of 1968? Big revolution. We found ways to fight the establishment. The town, Stadtwerke, wanted to put up the price of bus and tram. So we, the students, invented the red dot action. Everybody who had a car stuck a red dot on the front, and when you stood at the roadside and wanted to take a bus to go there, you just raised your hand, the next red dot would stop and take you. They had to take back this increase of price because nobody was taking the buses anymore. Now, that's creative. That's really creative. We had to fight for the permission to wear long hair. The girls weren't wearing any bras anymore. They wore miniskirts. And do you know how the people in the street reacted? Hitler would have known what to do with you. He would have gassed you. That was a comment that I heard often. And my hair went to here. And I heard that comment. And many people heard that comment. Hitler would have known what to do with you. You heard that comment, I bet. And there are lies. For instance, in Germany there are 1.77 million alcoholics. 74,000 die of alcohol each year. Death by tobacco, 2013, 140,000. Worldwide, 6 million dead people by tobacco. Keep away from the stuff. Keep away. Alcohol is a dangerous drug. Death by marijuana? 0. No, you're being told that's a dangerous drug. Alcohol is a dangerous drug. Tobacco is a dangerous drug. And then let's talk about the dangers of marijuana. Okay, for some it is dangerous, but not the way you are made to believe. Watch out, alcohol. That is dangerous. Watch out, cigarettes. They make you dependent. We have unnecessary tree felling, cementing of green areas. You will see that in your neighborhood. We have sterile monocultures in farming and people who do away with the hedges so they can plow their fields in one go and not in 7 little lots. You can do boycotts of industrially processed foods and drinks. I keep my fingers away from processed foods, full stop. I don't buy any. Why? Well, look at the list of ingredients, then you know why. Eat the natural stuff if you can. Keeps you healthier. Equal pay, the controlled media, There's a way of working with the NGOs, non-governmental organizations. And we have had successes already. Now, don't go away before you hear our successes. We have no official colonies anymore. You know what I mean by colonies? We have the human rights. We have the United Nations. We have the European Union. We have an international court in Den Haag. The Berlin Wall is gone. Women's rights in many countries are much better. We have a free press in many countries. We have free tuition in many countries. And we have a globalization of production and commerce for what it's worth. I think that's not bad. But we need more. This is not enough. And if the young generation doesn't take on the task, you can be happy in an ivory tower with whole food and bio gardening programs and all that, but you're not contributing to saving the planet. And I'm asking you no less than just that. Now, one more thing that I would like to suggest is that you read something. For instance, Stefan Hessel. You heard of Stefan Hessel? He wrote a little book that won't cost you more than €1 or 2. It's called Time for Outrage. In German, Empört euch. In French, Indignez-vous. He was a French diplomat. He's dead now. Indignaos. Neem het niet in Netherlands. Indignatevi, what would you use?
Indignatevi.
Indignatevi. In other words, raise your voice. And he writes, the worst possible outlook is indifference that says, I can't do anything about it, it'll just get by, I'll just get by. Behaving like that deprives you of one of the essentials of being human, the capacity and the freedom to feel outraged. That freedom is indispensable, as is the political involvement that goes with it. So just to shut up and to take it as you're dealt your cards is not a solution. He says, if you want to be a real human being, a real woman, a real man, you cannot tolerate things which put you to indignation, to outrage. You must stand up. Look around. Look at what makes you unhappy, what makes you furious, and then engage yourself in some action. This guy was 94 years old when he said that. Stefan Hessel, French diplomat. For the film people, François Truffaut made a film about him, about his mother, Jules et Jim. Jeanne Moreau was Hessel's mother. Or Thoreau, American, writes about civil disobedience. A term you should remember, civil disobedience. Under a government which imprisons any unjustly, the true place for any just man is also a prison. So if somebody wants to put you into prison because you have been selling alive seeds, go to prison and be proud of it, because that's the right place to be for you. Or Edgar Morin. Today, the fundamental global objective of all education, aspiring not only to progress but to the survival of humanity, is to civilize and unify the earth. I like that. The education of the future should teach an ethics of planetary understanding. And I would add, of planetary responsibility. Take your responsibility. It's your right to open your mouth and to say what you like and want and what you don't like and don't want. And then is Amartya Sen, economic growth without investment in human development is unsustainable. Yeah, human development. You must be informed. You have the internet. Read, research, and form your own opinion based on your natural likes and dislikes. And I'm quite sure that many of you will, after being informed, not find getting rich per se so attractive anymore. That game I'm talking about, that life game, is much more fascinating. So I wish you a future. We are going on the Rathausplatz, the town hall square, with Greta, who is not here. And you will notice that many people are trying to make Greta look bad. And make you look bad. You're just staying away from school because you're lazy. Well, don't pay any attention. Let's go to the town hall square and be there as a living sign, not like this. Not like this. We are better than that. We, humanity. We, the young ones. You show us that you are better than that. I thank you very much for listening.